Christmas is just around the corner, so fill your stocking or someone else's with some good stuff. Premium quality gaming kit from SteelSeries. They've launched a huge range of award-winning products this year, so it's a great time to refresh your setup or someone else's. Get 12% off all purchases using offer code SKILLUP at steelseries.com. Click below or stick around to the end of the video to learn more. Okay, so by now you've seen the title. I feel like this is as good an opportunity as any to reiterate that reviews are opinions. No reviewer holds a monopoly on truth, and that you can still love something that a reviewer doesn't. Look at Sonic Frontiers. Everyone loves that. I didn't. That game is literally third place in the upcoming player voice vote for the Game Awards, just a few percentage points behind Elden Ring and God of War. Point is, don't worry too much about reviews, they're opinions and should always be treated as such. I say all of this because I know how excited everyone is for this. I mean, I was super excited for this. From the moment Callisto Protocol made its debut, we were all like, holy shit, that looks incredible. Some of the best visuals we've ever seen, combined with a sci-fi horror aesthetic that we've been missing for a hot minute after the collapse of the Dead Space franchise. All the more special was the fact that this team was made up of people who made the original Dead Space games, reunited under a new banner to pick up where they left off after EA screwed them and their franchise. So this looked awesome, it was a setting and a genre we were all keen on, and it was an underdog story, redemption arc thing that we could all get behind. That makes it really tough for me to say that I do not recommend this, but unfortunately I don't. Callisto Protocol is everything that the trailers said it would be, an absolutely stunningly realized sci-fi world full of zombies trying to kill you. I don't believe that the marketing of this game promised any more than that, and that's a good thing because there really isn't anything more than that. Call the story threadbare would be generous. There is an alarming absence of characters. There are no puzzles. There's no exploration to speak of, as the game is effectively one long corridor. It runs terribly on PC. There's one boss and one mini-boss who is frustratingly recycled 4 times, and the combat is just, oh man, it straight up doesn't work for reasons I will talk about. Most terminally, Callisto Protocol just isn't scary or horrific or anything like that. It has scary things in it, but no true grasp of horror. It will endlessly throw jump scares at you because it hasn't managed to invent scenarios that have you on the edge of your seat. The aliens stalking you in isolation, the oppressive atmosphere of Silent Hill, the Saw-like scenarios the Baker family put you through in Resident Evil 7. Callisto Protocol has nothing like that. It's just corridors filled with zombies for 8 to 10 hours and then credits roll, after one of the worst designed boss encounters I've ever done in my life. I don't think Callisto Protocol is terrible. I think that plenty of people will find some enjoyment in this. If you just want to walk through a really pretty sci-fi prison, turn your brain off, kill zombies, this will do it for sure. If you're down for some summer blockbuster filler to kill some time, Callisto Protocol will fit the bill nicely. But I don't play games to kill time. I play them to enjoy them. And I found very little enjoyment here. My time with it was more about frustration than anything else. And for that reason, I just can't recommend it. I played Callisto Protocol on PC, on both the desktop and the Steam Deck. Steam Deck, no. When you run the benchmark, it returns a result of around 14 FPS, even when on low settings. So yes, definitely don't recommend this on Steam Deck. It's not meant for that. I played it on an RTX 2080 Ti with an AMD Ryzen 7 3700X. I tried to run it at 4K without ray tracing on, but that couldn't happen, was returning around 20 frames a second. That's fine, by the way. This is a really pretty game and I wasn't expecting 4K performance out of the 2080 Ti. I dropped it to 1440p with ray tracing on. That didn't work either, sadly, as ray tracing was just too taxing. It was dropping down to around 25 to 30 FPS. I turned ray tracing off and set it to 1440p max settings, and that was still too demanding. Frame rate couldn't maintain a stable 60. In the end, I dropped this to 1440p medium settings, and at that point, I was able to stay comfortably above the 60 FPS mark most of the time. However, the fluctuations were truly wild. Sometimes I'd be running as high as 120 FPS, and the next minute I'll be at 40 when I'm in a setting filled with lots of particle effects and geometry. On the whole though, base frame rate stability is pretty good. The issue is the stuttering. Oh my god, the stuttering I experienced, out of control. Stuttering is an increasingly common phenomenon these days on PC titles. Callisto is one of the worst offenders I've experienced. This game is constantly stuttering all the fucking time, whether it's moving into a new area or just any time, really. Most often it occurs during jump scares. Callisto is packed with jump scares, and so often when they happen, the game just kind of shudders for a few seconds while it tries to catch up with the speed of events. This completely neuters any potential impact that the jump scare might have had, because all the animations are missing. It's just a big loud sound, and all of a sudden, an alien zombie is attached to your neck. I hear that this runs really well on PS5. I spoke to 3 other reviewers, all of whom said they had no problems at all on PS5. I would say that the stuttering on PC is so bad that if you can play it on another platform, I would do that. I had such a bad time with it, it was super frustrating. No matter which platform you play on, Callisto Protocol is fucking stunning. This is an absolutely incredible looking video game. The trailers you have seen are super impressive, but they do not do it justice in the slightest. From the very first moment, you are overawed by the level of visual density in each space, and that is one aspect of Callisto that never lets up the whole way through. I didn't have much fun playing Callisto, but I won't lie, looking as good as it does, that helps. I was always interested to arrive at new locations because I was keen to see what these artists had in store for me and the fidelity with which Striking Distance's technical team was able to bring it to life. Special shout out goes to faces. Man, these look good, like really, really good. Especially the main character, modeled on actor Josh Duhamel, I'm not sure how to pronounce his name. These may be the best looking faces I've ever seen in a game, and it's a shame that there's so little story, because faces and facial animation this good are wasted when there are so few cutscenes and when very little happens in those cutscenes. Bottom line, PC performance sucks, and if you can play it on a console, I would do that, but goddamn do the visuals in this game go hard. Visuals so good that they help distract from what's missing from the rest of the experience, which is obviously a bit of a backhanded compliment, but that's genuinely how I feel.
Area secured. Moving to medical sector.
The Callisto Protocol begins aboard the Charon, a freighter ship running a job from Europa to Callisto. Jacob and his buddy are meant to be delivering some mysterious, no-questions-asked cargo to the Black Iron prison facility when they're suddenly boarded by persons unknown. A fight breaks out, the ship is trashed, and a crash landing on Callisto sees Jacob and his assailant imprisoned at the exact moment that everything at the facility turns to shit. It's zombies, as you'll soon find out, and so Jacob has to find a way off this zombie-infested rock, while maybe trying to figure out why everything fell to shit the way that it did, but that is definitely a secondary objective in more ways than one. Callisto got me thinking about what is the imperative for a survival horror game to have a story, and how good does that story have to be? I mean, Resident Evil games, they can get pretty out there with their stories, whether it's corporate conspiracies or moldy bayou shacks, or you have to rescue the president's daughter. Silent Hill games have always been more about their inner turmoil, psychological warfare with oneself. Dino Crisis was essentially Jurassic Park the video game, and it was awesome, but it was hardly high art. So I don't think that survival horror games need to have a compelling story per se, but if they're not going to have one, then they at least need some hooks, some strong characters, or some narrative or thematic adornments to help you sink into a world so it doesn't just feel like one of those ghost train rides at a carnival. Callisto has neither a story nor characters or any of those thematic hooks. I mean, there is a story, but like if I told you that there were zombies on a remote prison facility on one of Jupiter's moons, and I said guess the story, you would be able to guess the story, like almost beat for beat. It's not only predictable, it's also kind of just absent. It's at least 3 to 4 hours before the plot is even picked up. Before then, it's just pushing forward because a voice tells you to do that. When it does get moving, it happens in spasmodic bursts that never pique your interest, that never create questions in your mind or a desire to learn more. When the villain is revealed and their motivation, it's pretty goofy and it doesn't feel remotely earned, and the ending is so abrupt. I legit did not know I was headed into the final confrontation until I was there, because the narrative certainly wasn't building to any sort of recognizable crescendo. The story is so hard to care about because of the absence of characters. The main hero, Jacob, he's just a dude. There's really nothing to him. He doesn't have a backstory you'd care about. He doesn't have a personality that's interesting. He's little more than the suit he's wearing or the weapons he's carrying. Same goes for the very lean supporting cast. There's not many of them, and none of them are at all watchable or compelling. There is some effort to breathe a bit of personality into them, but they largely serve a function within a chain of events, rather than being actual characters that you look forward to interacting with. In the absence of a story or characters, Callisto would have really benefited from some thematic hooks, Silent Hill is the best example of this, the oppressiveness of its world and its monsters all serving as a reflection of James's grief and guilt. Hell, Ghostwire Tokyo wasn't a fantastic game, but its use of Japanese urban mythology combined with its yokai bestiary created a setting that felt worthwhile despite the game's many shortcomings. Callisto doesn't have anything like that. There's nothing to be unpacked or considered in anything that Callisto presents to you. Its setting is absolutely an old sci-fi prison with nondescript zombies. The only difference between them all is that some of them are blind, and that's it. I really wanted something other than the visuals to pull me into this world. I wanted a character, I wanted a storyline, I wanted some fucked up horror shit that would mess with me, and I'd have to take a break from the game because I found it too confronting or whatever. I wanted something, but unfortunately that just never comes here in Callisto. It's just Push Forward, the video game, a summary that applies not only to the narrative, but very much to the level design.
Jacob, you made it.
So lately, I think the term linear game has changed slightly, or at least the way we use it has changed. These days, we sort of call any game that's not an open world game a linear game, even though that's not quite right. Like we call Resident Evil Village a linear game, even though you spend a lot of time exploring specific locations in a distinctly non-linear fashion. Same goes for A Plague Tale Requiem, where large portions of that game are non-linear, affording the player a fair amount of choice about where they go, but we still refer to it as a linear single-player game. Callisto Protocol is a linear game in the strictest and most literal definition of that term. Exploration is not a feature of this experience. There is one pathway, and that is where you will go for the entire 10 or so hours. Now, there are some little side passage things, like a pathway will fork both left and right, and if you go right, you'll walk for a bit, kill some zombies, and then you'll get looped back around via an air duct or something so that you're pointed towards the other direction, and then you press on. That's about as extensive as exploration ever gets. Now, there's nothing inherently wrong with a distinctly linear experience. The Last of Us games, for example, almost entirely linear, but for a few sections, and they totally work. It works, I think, because those sorts of linear experiences are punctuated with scripted events or set pieces that all benefit from having the player carefully shepherded through them. The searchlights over the sewers as you flee under cover of night, the traps in Bill's town, the sniper sequence as you approach Sam and Henry's house. All of those unforgettable moments don't really work if you give the player too much space. Callisto Protocol has some of these moments, but very few. One standout example is this snowfield, where you're pressing through amidst all of these frozen zombies, and you just know that any one of them could spring to life at any moment, and they do. That is a great sequence. There's another one where you make your way through this nature biome, and all around you the trees are rustling with the sound of these zombie things, and you just know that any one of them could pounce on you at any moment. And they do. Again, great sequence, albeit quite frustrating. But these stand out in my mind because they are very much the exception to the rule. Most of the time, you're just pressing forward through these very linear environments without set pieces or new enemy types or new environmental mechanics to make them feel distinct. And after some time, you really feel starved for some more connection to the space you're moving through. As you do all of this, you should know that there's no puzzles in this game. The only thing you're ever asked to do is find fuse boxes to open doors. You'll take one fuse box from one place and you'll put it somewhere else. That opens the door, you move through, that's it. This find the fuse thing is repeated, I'm gonna say no less than 10 times. It definitely gets old. Again, should a survival horror game have puzzles? I mean, not necessarily, but if you're gonna have a distinctly linear experience like this, without many set pieces to break it up, then I think some puzzles would help. This is getting into the more wishlisty territory, but I really wish this had a different level design philosophy. Survival horror games have typically done a great job of showcasing how effective exploration of distinct locations can be. The town of Silent Hill, the police station of Resident Evil 2, the Talos of Prey. The Callisto Protocol is set in a big-ass sci-fi prison, and yet there is zero interconnectedness between any of its spaces. You don't need to build a map of this place in your mind and return to previously sealed-off sections when you found the right key. There's no Metroidvania elements, no lock and key progression, no exploration. It's just press forward, and I suspect this game would have been a hell of a lot better had its structure allowed us to properly explore Black Iron rather than shuttle us through it like we were on some big conveyor belt. So this brings us to combat. Now, if everything I've described to this point had been what it was, and the combat was okay, I probably would have just titled this video Callisto Protocol Review. I wouldn't be recommending against it, I'd just be like, look, it is what it is. The combat is what done it. The combat is what pushed me into territory of being like, nah man, this ain't it. Especially the boss encounter at the end of the game, oh my god. Okay, so survival horror combat. It's usually a fantasy of disempowerment. Your enemy is stronger than you, and you have limited resources, so the goal is to avoid combat, generally speaking, because you're generally outmatched and resource-starved. The Callisto Protocol is not built on the same philosophy. By and large, you are as strong as your foes, and you have limitless resources in the form of your baton. That's your primary weapon and your workhorse in most encounters, since combat is generally predicated upon up-close and personal melee engagements. It's more visceral than most survival horror combat, no pun intended, and I think it has good intentions, creating a unique selling point for Callisto within the survival horror landscape. The problem is that it's stupid, and it doesn't fucking work. So combat is a sort of QTE. When you're facing an enemy, they will swing at you and you're supposed to dodge that swing. The way you're supposed to do that is by pressing either left or right. You don't have to time it, you just have to be holding either left or right and your character will dodge every time. At first, I thought I had to be holding a specific direction, so if the enemy was hitting from the left, I thought I'd have to dodge right and vice versa. But no, it doesn't matter which way an enemy is swinging from, so long as you are holding either left or right, you will automatically dodge. What happens after that first dodge is that you then need to press the other direction from the one you were initially pressing to dodge the enemy's 1-2 combo. And they can have up to 4 swings in this combo, so you're just pressing left and right and then waiting for them to stop swinging. When they are done, it is your turn to swing. You will hit the right trigger a few times to do a combo, and very often a little reticle will appear, presenting you with an opportunity to fire off a quick shot for lots of damage. Once you've done that, you essentially stand and wait for the enemy to get back up to complete another one of their melee swing combos for you to dodge back and forth, and then you'll hit them a few more times to kill them. Just to show you the extremities of how this dodge mechanic works, by the way, this is the one mini-boss in the entire game. You will fight him 4 times. You can't melee him because the game won't let you. You have to shoot him with guns, and I use the shotgun because it's most effective, and when I need to reload, I can just stand in front of him holding a directional button, left or right, and he can't hit me. It is impossible for him to hit me, and I can just stand there, reloading, and then taking shots in between each of his swings. That is literally how you kill that boss, and that is literally how the dodge mechanic works in this game. So, everything I've described to this point is kind of dumb, but it works in one-on-one settings where there's you and one enemy, and that's it. It functions. It stops working entirely when there's more than one enemy present. They will continue to swing at you even when they are out of your field of view, so you can't anticipate their swings. You also can't target specific enemies because there's no lock-on feature, so you might be trying to finish off an enemy on low health, but suddenly another one shoulder barges in, and now your melee swings will snap to the new target. That's already bad, but it becomes catastrophic later on because every enemy begins to mutate. When you see tentacles coming out of their belly, then you had better shoot them fast, otherwise they'll become temporarily invulnerable and then immediately transform into a stronger variant with way more hit points and they do way more damage. So not only can you not reliably dodge enemies because the dodge system literally isn't built to handle more than one foe at a time, and not only can you not target the enemy you want to target, but you also can't reliably shoot the target you need to shoot because the auto-aim kicks in so hard that it will often snap you to the wrong target, and the window to shoot mutating enemies is really small. Furthermore, you do have a handful of weapons at your disposal, but weapon switching on the fly if you happen to run out of ammo doesn't really work most of the time because you get animation locked when you get staggered or when you start automatically dodging enemies. So you're trying to pull out a shotgun when your pistol runs out of ammo and you just can't do it, and all the enemies around you are transforming into these giant meat sacks ready to ream you. I cannot properly communicate just how frustrating this game's combat is. It's so fucking annoying. Basically, if the QTE goes well and you're able to dodge everything and bring down your foe as you planned, it works. But if one thing goes wrong and other enemies are alerted, or you run out of ammo and need to reload, or another enemy just happens to wander over, or one of them mutates, or whatever, just so many things can go wrong and any one of them spells instant death. Oh, and by the way, you can't heal during combat because the heal animation takes like 15 minutes. So, like with all these issues I've described, the least they could have done is add an instant heal that could be used to kind of crutch us through all of this frustration. But no, again, if like one thing goes wrong, it's basically impossible to recover, pushing you into yet another lengthy, unskippable death animation that I won't show here because YouTube will demonetize the video. There are so many ways that this combat could have been improved. A targeting system, a parry system, quick turn, so many problems all immediately apparent and all of them totally unresolved. And that's setting aside the total lack of enemy variety. I count a total of 4 truly distinct enemy types, and even then there's a lot of overlap in those, since one of them is just a regular melee enemy who happens to spit things, and the blind enemies are exactly the same as the non-blind enemies when you start fighting them. And yeah, like I said, there is one mini-boss in the whole game. You fight him 4 times. And there's one actual boss. I won't spoil it here, but it's one of the worst designed, most frustrating boss encounters I've done in a long time. I spoke to 5 other reviewers about it. 3 of them lowered the difficulty to beat it because in the end they just couldn't be fucked. And 2 of them did it, but they said it was horrific, and they were right, it absolutely was. Callisto went for some things in its combat, and I respect that, but sadly, none of them worked, and this was one of the most frustrating games I played this year, if not the most.
We don't stand a chance alone, but together we might just make it out of here alive.
So look, I'm as disappointed as you are. I know everyone was pumped for this. I was absolutely right there with you. But the more I pressed through this, the more it wore me down. I tried desperately to love it. I tried desperately to see past all its flaws and look for the redeeming factors, but I just couldn't find them because I don't think they're there. The skin-deep beauty is astounding. It is a remarkably pretty game, to the point where the beauty will, at times, distract you from the repetitiveness and the frustration of the broader experience. But even that beauty is undermined by shoddy performance on PC, though as I said, I have heard that console performance is better. The story and the characters are so lightweight that you could knock them over with a feather, and at no time does the game reach for any sort of themes or ideas that would make the experience more thought-provoking or more scary beyond the threat of yet another jump scare. The linearity of the level design would be fine if it had more interesting set pieces or scenarios, but structured the way they are, the entire thing feels frustratingly on rails, and the promise inherent in a big, scary sci-fi prison feels wasted when you don't actually get to explore any part of it. Terminally, the combat does not work. It doesn't work. And had Callisto another 6 months in development, some solutions to these obvious combat challenges could have been implemented. That didn't happen, and as a result, the only terror that Callisto inspires is the terror of having to sit through frustrating death after frustrating death. Sadly, I do not recommend the Callisto Protocol. Alright, so Christmas is just a few short weeks away and people are asking, hey man, what do you want? And you're like, I don't know. Or maybe you're racking your brains thinking of something to buy for your gamer brother, or your gamer girlfriend, or even your gamer mum. That's right, mums play games too, much respect to them. Whoever it may be, treat yourself or the special gamer in your life with the best kit money can buy, SteelSeries. SteelSeries products are industry leading. You don't have to take my word for it. Go and look up reviews and you will see that in every category, from mice to keyboards to headsets and beyond, SteelSeries stuff racks up awards left, right, and center. With a mix of functionality, quality, comfort, and reliability, SteelSeries has cemented an enviable reputation, and I'm very proud to have them as a channel partner. This has been a huge year for them, with new product launches galore and a refresh of almost all of their major offerings. Take headsets. The Nova Pro Wireless is astoundingly good. It's the headset I use, and I can't imagine using anything else. But there's other variants in the mix as well, such as the Nova 7, offering an AI-supported noise-canceling microphone and Bluetooth integration so you can take calls while you're playing. But what about mice? Right now, I'm rocking the Aerox Wireless. So light, so comfortable, fantastic battery life, and pinpoint precision. How about keyboards? This year, SteelSeries refreshed their range, including the Apex Pro TKL, the fastest keyboard ever built with their all-new Omni Pro 2.0 adjustable switch technology, awarded Best Gaming Keyboard by Wired Magazine. That is the keyboard that I use, and I love it. Whatever gaming kit you need, SteelSeries make it, and they make the best version of it, so you can buy with confidence from them, and you can buy at a discount because SteelSeries have partnered with the channel to provide you a no questions asked 12% discount on any purchase from SteelSeries.com when you use offer code SkillUp at checkout. Any item at all, 12% off when you use offer code SkillUp at SteelSeries.com. Perfect time for Christmas, but do get in quick as stock may sell out during the busy gifting season. Thank you SteelSeries for sponsoring the video, and thank you for watching it.